Hi, and welcome back to the second reading in the book of Revelation in the Bible. And we are continuing as we listen, we hear, and read to receive a blessing that God promised in the very first of the first chapter of the book of Revelation. He promises that if we read and we hear, we will receive a blessing, as well as we will learn about what is soon to come. Again, this is an apocalyptic message of hope for us who are Christians and warning for those who are non-Christian. And so I started out in the King James Version. I'm going to switch back and forth as I continue to read. I'm going to read today from the New Jerusalem Bible. Excuse me. So let's begin. Now write down all that you see of present happenings and things that are still to come. The secret of the 7 stars, let me set my timer. The secret of the 7 stars you see in my right hand, and of the 7 golden lampstands is this: the 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches themselves. And as I shared with you yesterday, God uses a lot of numerical values, and so we're going to see that number 7 repeated, as well as other numbers that he uses. The first is to the church at Ephesus. Write to the angel of the church in Ephesus and say, here is the message of the one who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and who lives surrounded by the 7 golden lampstands. I know all about you, how hard you work and how much you put up with. I know you cannot stand wicked men, and how you tested the impostors who call themselves apostles and proved that they were liars. I know too that you have patience and have suffered for my name without growing tired. Nevertheless, I have this complaint to make. You have less love now than you used to. Think where you were before you fell. Repent and do as you used to at first, or else, if you will not repent, I shall come to you and take your lampstand from your place. It is in your favor, nevertheless, that you loathe as I do what the Nicolaitans do. If anyone has ears to hear, let him listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. Those who prove victorious, I will feed from the tree of life in God's paradise. What a blessing. Smyrna. Write to the angel of the church in Smyrna and say, here is the message of the first and the last, who was dead and has come to life again. I know the trials you have had and how poor you are, though you are rich, and the slanderous accusations that have been made by the people who profess to be Jews, but are really members of the synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of the sufferings that are to come to you. I tell you, the devil is going to send some of you to prison to test you, and you must face an ordeal for 10 days. Even if you have to die, keep faithful, and I will give you the crown of life for your prize. If anyone has ears to hear, let him listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. For those who prove victorious, there is nothing to be afraid of in the second death. Write to the angel of the church in Pergamon and say, here is the message of the one who has the sharp sword, double-edged. I know where you live, in the place where Satan is enthroned, and you still hold firm to my name, and did not disown your faith in me, even when my faithful witness Antipas was killed in your own town where Satan lives. Nevertheless, I have one or two complaints to make. Some of you are followers of Balaam, who taught Balak to set a trap for the Israelites so that they committed adultery by eating food that had been sacrificed to idols. And among you too there are some as bad who accept what the Nicolaitans teach. You must repent, or I will soon come to you and attack these people with the sword out of my mouth. If anyone has ears to hear, let him listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To those who prove victorious, I will give the hidden manna and a white stone, a stone with a new name written on it, only known to the man who receives it. Write to the angel of the church of Thyatira and say, here is the message of the Son of God, who has eyes like a flaming, burning flame and feet like burnished bronze. I know all about you and how charitable you are. I know your faith and devotion and how much you put up with, and I know how you are still making progress. Nevertheless, I have a complaint to make. You are encouraging the woman Jezebel, who claims to be a prophetess, and by her teaching she is luring my servants away to commit the adultery of eating foods which has been sacrificed to idols. And I will stop there for today. If we notice as we're going through the Word that God has so many promises, and I love that He's going to give a stone with a new name written on it, that only the person who knows it, receives it, knows that name. And the promise that we don't have to be afraid of the second death. And also the promise to Ephesus that He'll feed from the tree of life in God's paradise. Do you remember that tree? When God created the world and Adam and Eve were set in the midst of the garden. And now here we are, full circle around. And God is going to make that tree available to us, the tree of life. How wonderful. So there are many blessings as we go through this book of Revelation. Apocalyptic, yes. It shares with us what is soon to come. It brings hope and blessing to each one of us. Have a great day, and we'll continue reading in the book of Revelation tomorrow.